Hello everyone and welcome back to Football Manager 2019 and another part of this perfect player experiment where the perfect player has become the perfect manager. Now he has all of the attributes that you need to become the best manager in the game. The one thing he doesn't have is the Continental Pro license. He's only at a National B license and we're just going to leave him to see if he can attain that Continental Pro license over time. I am going to try and make him an assistant manager and coach as well, which hopefully if he's hired as a coach will lead to him getting a better license so that he could become a top tier manager. You can see his player history here as well. I'm hoping that he goes back to some of these teams and hopefully does a good job with them. But really we're just going to go forward and see how he does. So we'll take it probably about 5 years at a time. We'll go maybe up to 20 years into the future. He's 40 years old right now. That'll be most of his career checked out. But before we do that, if you are enjoying this series and this experiment, do drop a like on the video. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you're new as well. But let's go forward 5 years and see how his career got off the mark. Well, we are now 5 years into the future. This is going to be a bit of a difficult one to present to you because of the way that this starts. Now, originally I ran this experiment forward and he wasn't hired by anybody for about 10 years, which was a little bit frustrating. So what I did was I went back and I did what we did when he was a player. I dropped him in at Leyton Orient. Now, you can see he was only here for about 7 months. He started as manager here, made a bunch of signings, knocked out of the Carabao Cup in the first round, the FA Cup in the first round, and failed to qualify from their group. But he signed a lot of players, and Leyton Orient actually that year did manage to qualify for the playoffs down in League One, but unfortunately it was not enough for them. They were beaten at the semi-final stage, but he left as manager in the February of that year and went to Birmingham, where he stayed as manager for about 11 months. Now they finished 20th in the Championship in that first season. You can see they were knocked out the Carabao Cup in the knocked out by QPR in the first round there, and then knocked out by Arsenal in the FA Cup third round. He left as manager again, so was not sacked as Birmingham manager. Now that is the year 23-24. If we look at the Championship table for that year, then we can see, just go back to 33-34 and then the league table. Then Birmingham that year, after finishing 20th the year before, they were up in 9th. They were doing extremely well, but he left Birmingham to go back to FC United, where he stayed for over a year there. That's a full season, nearly 2 years he was at FC United, hired as a manager, got through in the FA Cup 4th round, signing players for a bit of cash, knocked out by Arsenal in the 5th round, but they did finish 13th that year, ended up signing a whole bunch of players, got through the Carabao Cup until the 4th round where they were beaten by Liverpool, do well in the FA Cup, knocked out in the 5th round there, Championship Manager of the Month for March, and they ended up finishing in 12th place that year, and then as you can see they carried on going for some time, winning the Carabao Cup first round, but they were sacked in the 2045 season, or sacked him in the 2045 season. If we look at their senior squad schedule and look back at that season, you can see they were doing pretty well for quite some time. They had a little bit of a dip in the middle here, but that seems a little bit harsh to me. If we have a look, sacked November 2045, the 4th of November 2045, so that'd actually be the next season, that'd be why. And you can see here the 4th of November 2045, they were beaten by his old team Birmingham. They'd lost quite a lot of matches at that point. As soon as he was sacked, they go on a big winning run or unbeaten run, win an awful lot of games right up to the end of the season. And did they actually get promoted in that season? That's the question. If we go and have a look at that year, they didn't. They ended up finishing mid-table actually, so I'm quite off with that. They weren't far off points-wise from the playoffs, but not enough for them. And so he was sacked for the first time in his career after being Leyton Orient and Birmingham and then FC United manager. 2 of his former teams already in the mix, and now he's gone to be the under-18s assistant manager, where he still is. That's quite a big drop down, going to Swansea, who, if we look at their senior squad at the moment, They are playing in the Premier League. I think they've probably just been relegated though, so he's still at a Championship club, but he's gone to become an under-18s manager. Hopefully that's to do with coaching badges, but we will find out soon. I'm going to go forward another 5 years now, and we'll see what he's managed to get up to with Swansea. Well, you can see when we left off, he was the under-18s assistant manager. He became their caretaker manager for 10 games in January 2048, and then again in January 2049, so they must have been sacked a couple of managers. He was removed both times, but he was promoted to coach in June 2049. He spent 2 years doing that job, and then became assistant manager for about a year before becoming the full-time manager in 2052, which is where we are now. So he became manager literally 8 days ago, but in this 5-year period he has stayed loyal and worked his way up from the under-18s assistant manager to caretaker on a couple of occasions, then a coach, then assistant manager, and now finally he has become manager a good 6 years after joining the club. They are in the Premier League. I'm going to assume if he's manager they've been relegated. And you can see a 19th place finish there. He's got a job on his hands, but actually there's not an awful lot to look at here. So what I'm going to do is just go right the way to the last point that I've got to while holidaying forward, and we'll just look back over his career for that period of time. But you can see he is a very loyal member of staff, which he isn't supposed to be. He's got one loyalty. He should be jumping all over the shop, which he did here. But unfortunately, it seems to have settled here. And also, if we look at his profile, he's still just got this National B licence, which is quite frustrating that he hasn't gone and done his coaching badges in all that time of being an assistant manager or under-18s manager or a coach. He never got a better licence. And I don't know if that's because he's not been doing the courses, or if he just thinks he's too good to get anything out of them, but it really restricts his career. So let's go forward and see if he does manage to do any real, or manages to achieve any real success with Swansea. Well, we are now really far into the future. The year is 2067 and our player is now 65 years old. He is pretty much at retirement age. And so we're going to see what his managerial career has managed to achieve. When we left off, he was the manager of Swansea. You can see there was a lot of transfer business in the Championship, including signing some players for quite a lot of money. 21 million there. Oh no, sold for 21 million there. But a decent amount of money in the club. Won in the Carabao Cup, getting through to the 4th round before being knocked out by Manchester United. Sky Bet Championship Manager of the Month, the 2nd time he's picked up that award. Won in the 3rd round against Swansea. Won in the 4th round against Stoke. A lot of January transfers. 5th round, but knocked out by Arsenal in the quarterfinals. Won the Sky Bet playoff semi-final against Barnsley, and then won the Championship playoff final against Derby. So they've been promoted by the playoffs. He was Manager of the Year in the Championship with Swansea, so he has at least won a big managerial award. In the Premier League, signing a lot of players. Managed to get through to the 5th round, but knocked out by the quarterfinal by West Brom in the Carabao Cup. Still going in the FA Cup though, before being knocked out by Preston of all teams in the quarterfinals, and they were relegated in his first year back in the Premier League as a manager by or with Swansea, sacked as well after being relegated as well. Now that was in the year 2054. He had a bit of a hiatus for a year before going back to FC United again as the assistant manager. He only spent 2 months as assistant manager, whereas caretaker manager and then the interim manager. So as caretaker manager or interim manager, he spent about 5 months doing that before being hired full-time as the manager of FC United. And then he was manager of FC United again here. This is his 2nd stint after a year back here. He was manager of FC United for 2 years. You can see they finished 8th in the Championship, not enough to make it into the playoffs that season, halfway through, but doing alright in the league. Finished 8th again for another year, so he managed to stay on for yet another year as manager. Knocked out by Everton in the 2nd round of the Carabao Cup, out by Burnley there. Won Manager of the Month of February, and they finished 9th that next season. And then he was sacked in 2058, so they didn't manage to achieve much more. After being manager of FC United, he went to the Crystal Palace as the under-18s coach, then Fulham as under-18s assistant manager, and then he has been a coach at Fulham since 2063, so he's been there for 4 years now. He's had a few dalliances with management, it has to be said, but he has not really managed to achieve anything significant other than a playoff victory in the Championship and Manager of the Year for the Championship. Those were his only real achievements. He has at least managed his former teams. FC United he went back to after being sacked once to get sacked again, but he at least had a few years there. It's a nice... He always seems to like working his way up from the bottom. I'm not sure why he's always been a youth coach and then coming up from there, but it's a bit frustrating that he never ever went and got this pro license. He never got a higher license than that, and I have no idea why that's the case. But you can see he's had a very, very long career, and he has at least won the playoff trophy in the Championship, so he does have a couple more awards on his mantelpiece from his 20-something plus year coaching and managerial career. But that is going to be it for this experiment. I'm not going to go into too much detail on this one. It was never going to be that successful unless he got that pro license. But do drop a like on the video if you have enjoyed watching the story of Jenkaldo Jr. Make sure you subscribe if you want to see the new experiment, which will be out tomorrow as well. But until next time, see ya.